exploring the intersection of AI and HR. This is the AI HR Daily Podcast.
Hello and welcome to our next podcast from our AI HR Daily news outlet. We are really hyped about this one. So in the last episode, we kind of discussed really on a high level where AI can add value in the HR domain. And today we want to dive deeper into workforce planning and what AI can do here in terms of adding value. And I would say let's maybe directly start with the question. So Chris, what do you know about workforce planning and what kind of function does it try to fulfill in a company?
I mean, workforce planning, right? We've had different exposure points to workforce planning. On the one hand, me, myself, as an employee in the past, going through different processes of my development and my progression over my career. But on the other hand, also now we've been working with some clients that have started to implement AI in their workforce planning. And I think generally what I understand as workforce planning is, as the word says, how to plan your workforce. But on the other hand, if you want to dive a bit more deeper, for me, it's really like understanding your own employees, understanding the capabilities of your own employees, and then figuring out exactly what you can do with this knowledge to further develop your employees, right? And plan ahead of time, right? As an internal topic.
Yeah.
I think there's also external factors, right? Like business development and co, that can impact how you should plan your workforce. But that's how I see it. Do you see it differently?
No, totally aligned here. I mean, as it's also showing here, right? So what do we have currently in the workforce? What kind of skills? What is the motivation level and these kind of things? And what kind of skills will we need in the future, and how we basically bridge the gap from today till to tomorrow is really the exercise which we're trying to optimize for here. And I think, and maybe therefore showing directly like another visual, we have kind of a really interesting phenomena which we are now seeing in for workforce planning, right? Because we, on the one hand, have a lot of workers adopting AI, which also implies that people are getting much more effective, more efficient. They can fulfill a broader set of tasks. They can deliver more value in their current task sets, which is basically then also implying that maybe less people are needed to a certain degree. Some people can do other work. Which also leads me here now to the second figure, saying that only 19% of companies currently considering this new capability set of all these people's using AI in their workforce planning, which is quite a big disconnect in terms of what people can do now and how is this considered in workforce planning, right?
Foundationally, companies first of all have to even consider a digital or more digitized workforce planning compared to going through an Excel sheet with management once a year and actually planning on hey, we're gonna hire another 20 people based on XYZ, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think without further ado, let's dive a bit deeper into what kind of actual use cases can be implemented with AI in the subdomain, and what is the value behind this. I mean, we have researched here now 5 use cases for this episode, which we would love to dive a bit deeper into. This really goes from attrition modeling, so predicting who is about to leave my company and why, and how to make them stay, until then really understanding what is the skill map of my workforce, and then also what will be predicting what will be the skills I need in the future. And I think this will also already outline in this intro of workforce planning. So really cool stuff here ahead. Shall we just jump into the first kind of use case which we have identified, or which we also
I think generally why we're even doing this is for all HR leaders out there. The goal should be after this session that you have a very clear idea where you can actually implement AI in workforce planning, because right now we do see a bit of an offset still that companies are still doing things manually. Now with everything, as Tim already said, everyone learning more and more AI, we actually have to figure out some exact case studies and use cases where we can implement AI. So I'm down to kick it off with the first one.
Let's
Uh,
go.
exactly. So retention is one of the biggest cost factors of a company. How much does it cost to, if you actually lose an employee that you've been training for years, that you actually know works well in his role in a certain department?
Yeah.
And this is where what I like most about workforce planning and implementing this AI use case, because I think this can have so much value, but you do have to take a few things into consideration, right? So
Sure.
generally, what they're talking here about is retention and pushing retention. So actually analyzing employees' behavior in certain situations to understand if they leave a company earlier or not, right?
Mhm.
And I think, Tim, we've seen this in one company that we've been working with, that in their case, they didn't want to go this extra step. So, I don't know, monitoring Slack messages, monitoring emails, because that is, or make like checking when people join meetings. Because
Mhm.
there's a lot of indicators that show if an employee is about to leave. And you and I both know, because we've both been in the situation, how that actually is, right?
True, very much true. Yeah, yeah. This is really like this is a kind of sensitive topic in terms of like what kind of parameters to consider to like influence the model in terms of like coming up with the predictions. But from a really high level, I think it's you can start with general industry data around what is the general tenure of certain profiles in certain companies, what are the payment structures or the compensation structures which are the market standard, are we matching this or not, what are the promotion cycles, and obviously data like engagement surveys and also like performance reviews can clearly give you a lot of data points to derive a conclusion or a prediction if someone is about to churn or not. And then obviously most important, model or like have generate an understanding what kind of actions as a company or as an employer or as a manager you can undertake in order to keep the person. So increasing their pay, for example, or speeding up promotion cycles, like typical measures which you could then utilize to keep these people and don't lose them to your competition, which then prevents you from like having all these extra costs of obviously losing the employee, searching for a new one, having this like gap of knowledge which left basically with the employee itself, and then onboarding a new persona, having the risk of the persona not fitting the role and so on and so
But
forth.
I think it's a bit more underlying problem than just saying like, "Hey, I'm just going to increase the person's salary," because I don't think that salary is just like a foundational topic for predicting if someone
Yes.
will leave, right? There's so
Yeah.
much more depth in earlier stages.
Yes, great one. And here, for example, this like the company where we basically found this case study from, they are also considering the management changes from this employee in
Exactly.
the past few years. And if you see then also common pattern in terms of like certain managers having a lot of churn or like a employee needing to adapt to different managers over time, causing this increase of likelihood that they are about to leave, is another really interesting factor which you obviously then can also influence in a way.
So like within the employees interpersonal problems, there are so many factors that you probably can only figure out if you do read messages in co. And we've seen this reading messages as an example where I don't agree with it, because I would not want my Slack messages to be read by an AI to predict if I'm about to leave, but theoretically they're allowed to.
Yeah, I mean, we I think this like using this anonymized layer on top where you see, okay, this person is always since a few months joining calls late. They
Mhm.
have like no one-on-one calls anymore. They respond to non-essential emails much later. This meta level, I think this is fine and can obviously be also of benefit for you as an employee, because then you might be approached by your manager saying, "Hey, are you not comfortable with your current situation? What can we do jointly to optimize this?" I
And
mean,
that's the goal, right? To flag that before the employee gets to the point where they say, "Hey, I'm going to leave now." To
yeah.
actually say, "Hey, we see that you have a certain patterns in place that maybe flag a potential leaving cycle." So I actually like this model a lot, and it is now to be proven in practice on scale how
Mhm.
this actually works. I think a few companies have already been doing it, and we already were part of one implementation, right? So yeah, I'm
Yeah.
excited to see what exactly for this use case how this is going to turn out.
And I think this is a good segue into the next use case, which we have kind of researched, right? Because here we talk about mapping of capabilities and really having kind of a real-time overview about all the skills of your workforce. And especially for like ambitious employees, it's really important that the employer has a sufficient understanding. What are my skills today? Where do I want to develop myself? And how can I do so? What are like the resources provided by my employer to grow as an individual person? And I think therefore this use case here is really, really interesting. Uh, Also from the perspective that things are changing so quickly with AI, and from there being really able to understand what kind of skills are lagging where and
How would
where.
you do it, Tim?
Could
How
you
would
come?
you map your skills if you have a workforce of 100 employees? How would you, or even 1,000 employees, how would
Yeah,
you start mapping skills and understanding what every employee can actually do without knowing everyone personally?
true. Yeah. I mean, the like let's maybe start with the simple data points at hand. So you have the CVs of everyone because they have applied at some point, which gives you already kind of a good understanding where what they did in the past, what did they work on, and so on and so forth. So this is an easy win, right? Then you have obviously project histories, which
Mhm.
depending on the data availability are a great resource because then you know, okay, this person has like worked 5 years in a project related to SAP for HANA, whatever, and was a team lead there of like 10 people, and they have also implemented some external services and work with external services providers, so on and so forth. So this can give you like a really rich data set to infer a certain skill set. And then obviously what really needs to happen in the beginning actually is to map out what kind of like skill rubrics you would like to monitor, how are the different proficiency levels of these skills mapped, and
So in the end, you need a big database of skills with proficiency levels and descriptions per proficiency level. And then
mhm,
you have to go through every department, every job title, and map what skills have to have what proficiency level. Is that
yeah,
what you're saying?
yeah. I mean, you have to do this exercise once, and I think it's crucial to have this done in a really diligent way because this will obviously influence all of your future decisions around like what skills to track and what skills to optimize for. So I think this is a crucial exercise which every
And
HR leader needs to go through.
and how can we leverage AI already to set this up? Because there's so many different skill sets, also per job requisition. So
Yeah,
how do you already leverage AI here in this step to just do the setup, right?
yeah. I mean, a few obvious ways is like obviously looking at giving the AI visibility in what kind of data structures are available, how they are connected with each other, and how easily they would be able to be how easily you could obtain all of these data points for like prediction and skills matching and categorization. So this is really a first point, and then obviously understanding the industry the company is in, understanding the size of the company, feeding all of these data points in, and then from there modeling all these skills, having also this forward looking angle where you then look what kind of tasks can be taken over from an AI in the future and what most likely will be with humans, and where which kind of skills do we need to track so that our employees can manage AI and also do the things which can't be done with AI in a best possible way.
Yeah. I mean, the obvious solution or obvious team that does this is normally like the human capital team, someone that is involved a bit more, not only from the HR department, but also has a bit more like transparency into the business processes. And because this is not like a super easy topic to do, right? The AI can support a lot, but also then when it comes to analyzing everyone's skill set, you can do it within the normal performance reviews and leverage those as like a skill mapping exercise, at least infer skills from there. But that also has to be implemented in your performance review.
Very
So
much true. Yeah. But obviously the value on the other side is huge, so therefore definitely worth to essential to do in order to be able to navigate the future with your workforce, right?
yeah, and so now if we have every employee mapped and we know every person's skill, what can an CHRO do with that data? If it says, hey, Tim is actually not a marketing manager but knows AI very well,
Yeah.
what would the CHRO do with those data points?
Yeah, I mean that's actually a good like segue into another case study which we have, which is like looking at internal mobility, right? So if you know who has what skills, who has what capabilities, what interests, you definitely can also, with a like much higher certainty, say that this person would be a great succession for this role which needs to be filled. This person would be a great potential for a new role which we are hiring for. So you can much cleaner and clearer identify talent which you already have within your company for new needs which are coming up in the workforce. So this is really one essential value which you can derive out of having a clear overview of your skills within a company. And then besides that, obviously you have also the ability to now proactively upskill people which are lacking skill XYZ for their current work they have to finish or work on within the company. So
Obviously
talent discovery.
we're thinking here more around like, hey, the workforce is generally going to change. More and more AI agents are going to be deployed. Certain departments are going to be more and more replaced by AI. So, what are we going to do with these employees? So, the HR leaders look at the skill profiles of these employees and say, hey, this person, Tim, could actually go somewhere else in another department because that person, or Tim in this case, has skills that we didn't actually think he should have for his specific role, right? And this is one topic. Second topic is obviously succession. So people growing into leadership roles or more senior roles, which is also necessary. As you said correctly, the skill mapping exercise is not only to have people switch between different job roles, but also to enhance their own skills and double down on what they're actually lacking on. And this is where AI will have a big part in the process of developing employees and making sure that they're future ready.
Yeah, exactly. And with all of these like measures, you can really increase the tenure of people and increase the retention of employees staying at the company, which, as we learned, is a quite valuable thing to do, right? So this is really cool. Maybe then now looking
Nice.
again at looking a bit more on like
Yeah, I
a
think we're a bit delayed. Yeah.
sorry, go ahead.
All good. Go ahead.
Exactly. So looking maybe then again a bit more on like this high level view, which an HR leader really needs to take, in our opinion, in order to navigate the rise of AI and the capabilities that come along with it. So roles will change, and therefore, as we learned, we need to really understand what are the current skills of my workforce, what are the skills which we are missing, what's the gap, and how can we bridge this gap in order to make everyone best prepared for this next phase of AI, where you also perfectly summarized already, need to be kind of like an agent orchestrator, which really needs to understand how do I manage different agents for different tasks? How do I bring my own judgment in here? Where should I take the final calls? Where should I hand over my my work more or less to an agentic system or to an AI application to support me in the best way? And this is really the exercise you need to go through, also from perspective of keeping your top talent, right? Because if you don't provide an environment where a person which is really into AI can unfold themselves in the best way, in terms of like having a good infrastructure in place, making all sorts of LLMs, for example, available, having some other like shared services available for you to utilize, having other systems in place so that you can really unfold your full potential using AI. These people will then also searching for companies in your industry which do so in a much more sophisticated manner, and where they can live much more freely, working with AI, or like utilizing AI much more easily.
Yeah, I think in my opinion, we will see a shift of seniority. So similar to what you said, this delegation topic will become more and more relevant. So employees will jump up a level and they will rather delegate AI agents and stay as the human in the loop within the process. But obviously, to come back to this case study here now, as we already said, the data of the employees and their capabilities is one topic, but also one thing that we haven't discussed about yet at all is the impact of the financial situation and also macro topics, right? So if the business is not doing well or is doing even better in certain scenarios, you also have to adjust your workforce according to that. So let's say, I don't know, you close a big deal where you have to produce double the amount than the last year. You'll also be in a normal situation where management comes to HR and says, "Hey, we have to hire 50 more people," right?
Yeah.
But also, probably it's not going to even be like that. It's going to be more like, "Hey, we have to hire more people. Let's figure out how many."
Yeah.
And this is one use case that where exactly the skill mapping, where everything comes together, right? Making sure that top talent stays, making sure that we can transfer skills from other employees, we can hire the best new ones, where all of the topics will be supported by AI. So
Yeah.
I think this is the most interesting one because no one is really thinking of it yet.
Yeah, yeah, this kind of aggregation layer which you will then have or which you will be then able to utilize when you have all of these like things figured out and use cases figured out, which allows you then to go on this much more, even more meta level to take these really strategic decisions. I mean, it's then really the level after the next level, I guess.
So Tim, if you were a CHR owner of a big enterprise, you would still the HR team would still be working in Excel sheets regarding workforce planning. What would be your first steps to implement AI and to figure out what you would do first?
Yeah. I mean, obviously, I think this discussion is always the same one, no matter if it's in HR or any other business domain. You have to have your data ready and available, accessible for these use cases. So you really have to understand what is the data landscape which we are facing. How can we unify this in a way that our use cases can access the data it needs to be able to access for these use cases. Then obviously have a human oversight layer, which is basically taking care of bringing in this business logic, bringing in the understanding of the relevant context of the company is really crucial, because like a system which is running in the wrong direction is obviously not helping anyone. So you need really someone to fine tune these use cases in the beginning, and then obviously continuously monitor
What would be the first use case that you would do?
So from my perspective, I think this skill mapping exercise is my favorite one, right? Because you have so many hidden talent in your workforce of people which are maybe really hyped about AI in their free time, but they can't really unfold this like excitement in the company itself because like the infrastructure and the governance is just not ready for them. So discovering these like hidden champions with the skill mapping exercise in the first place would be an insanely valuable undertaking, because then you could utilize these champions which you then identified as like a multiplier to also upskill again other people around them. So I think this is a really interesting one, and I think it's quite a quick win because you have already a lot of data points from, as mentioned, CVs, people or project related data points, but also trainings employees have done in the past, which may be also indicating an interest in AI, for example, right?
It's the easiest one to implement short term, I agree. I don't know if it has the best outcome short term, depending on where the company situates right now. I like actually the most about the retention topic, but this is a bit more a long term game, right? Because you have to start collecting data. It will take time to gather all of the data, to analyze it. Well, I think that will have a big impact down the line at some point, right?
Yeah. I mean, the potential of discovering patterns with these kind of prediction engines is crazy, right? So imagine you see all these different patterns which become then really clearly based on the data, and being able to act then really on these insights is obviously potentially of insane value, right?
One final topic that we haven't discussed about yet, and it was also briefly on the slide now, everything around compliance. Because if I already hear this, like, hey, monitoring messages, monitoring behaviors of users when joining calls, all of these topics that are super sensitive,
Mhm.
how would you go about it now? Also with the European AI Act coming into place, anything specific that you would tell people to look at before actually starting anything, or anything that is super crucial that could really get you into trouble?
Yeah, I mean, I think this like visual also summarizes this in a quite nice way, right? So in the end, all final decisions need to stay with a human, be it promoting someone, be it also letting someone go, be it moving someone from department A to department B. These are really things which should be staying with the human, and which are also heavily governed by, for example, the European AI Act. So all these final decisions, which are like then making a final point, should stay certainly with the human. And I think the mantra which we could then really go for here, or the CHRO also should go for here, is exactly this one. So the AI models, they deliver you the options to work with. They help you to also like model different scenarios. They help you to understand the data. But then in the end, you need to own the decision. You can't like
Sure.
let the AI do this last final step. You can utilize, and you should utilize the AI to get much better data points to take decisions. But the final decision should definitely certainly be with humans in a broader scope, right?
Okay, but now coming back to my question, EU AI Act, not only about like human in the loop, right? Also GDP, like data compliance, storing data, analyzing data, sending personalized data to LLMs. Any thoughts on that?
Yeah. I mean, I think you touched on all the like crucial points already, right? So where possible, you should definitely strip all PII data away from the data sets when interacting with LLMs, all in order to be GDPR compliant, but also to reduce bias as well. Then obviously having these monitoring systems in place to kind of catch if some, for example, model drift is happening, so a model is starting to behave differently, but also from more like a deterministic perspective, are things coming still in a correct fashion, are crucial for you internally, but also obviously for the regulators to have insights around how the system is running. And then obviously being highly transparent where AI is used, how it's used, and giving also an option to maybe intervene from an employee perspective in case they feel not rightfully served with the AI system at hand, right?
Would you say that every employee has to opt in?
Really depends on the use case, right? So I think this is a question which needs to be answered on an individual basis.
Cool. No, very interesting topic. Workforce planning is definitely going to change throughout the next couple of years, but companies have to prepare their data ahead of time. And if they don't do that, they're not going to be able to implement AI in their workforce planning at all.
Yeah. But the ones which do obviously have like a huge competitive advantage because they can act faster, they have the right people in the right place at the right time, and obviously they can cut costs where it makes the most sense. So the potential value of this exercise and these activities is great.
Yeah. Cool. Thank you so much, Tim. And we'll speak next time around the second step in the value chain, which is around recruiting already, right?
Yes, really excited about this one.
Same here.
Cool.
Cool. Thank you so much. See you next time.